Providing a safe workplace for all employees is a mandatory commitment set forth by the leadership teams at all I+Icon USA companies. It is our policy to strive for the highest safety standards on all projects. Safety does not occur by chance. It is the result of teamwork and commitment by all company and site personnel. You are responsible and authorized to stop work where concerns or questions regarding the control of safety and health risks exist, or when a hazard is identified that presents imminent danger to employees, subcontractors, or the public. There will be no repercussions to you. Our safety program has been developed to ensure compliance with federal, state, and local regulations, with particular emphasis on the OSHA requirements that apply to our construction operations. It is our obligation to train employees so they are knowledgeable of applicable standards and are able to implement them. A safe operation is organized, clean, and efficient. If every employee views safety as their primary daily goal, we will be in a better position not only to avoid accidents, but also to improve the total performance of our company. It is of utmost importance that all aspects of our safety program are strictly adhered to. Failure to adhere to safety rules and regulations may result in disciplinary action in accordance with I+Icon's established procedures. Any recommendations to improve our safety program are encouraged. Each and every person who performs work on an I+Icon project must strive to ensure that they are living to be safe and accident-free. First and foremost, substance abuse is unacceptable. Any employee found using or under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs shall be immediately discharged. Substance abuse testing will be performed before you start work. Unannounced random project testing, post-accident testing, return-to-service testing, reasonable suspicion testing, and project-required testing will also occur. If you suspect anyone on the job may be working under the influence of alcohol or drugs, please immediately notify your supervisor. Safety planning. I+Icon requires weekly safety meetings and daily task planning meetings on all job sites to identify potential safety hazards and develop the proper safety actions and required PPE to complete the day's tasks. These meetings are mandatory, and your contributions and questions are extremely important. In addition, site-specific safety programs will be developed and reviewed with all employees on the project. Personal protective equipment (PPE) regulations apply at all I+Icon USA job sites for all personnel, including employees, subcontractors, suppliers, and visitors. Head protection. Hard hats must be worn at all times, bill forward, on all job sites, including operators and site equipment. They must be in good condition, free of cracks or holes. If the hat has been struck, it is no longer usable and must be turned over to the safety department. In addition, there will be no profane stickers or writing allowed on hard hats. Eye and face protection. Safety glasses with side shields, prescription glasses with side shields, or over-the-glasses protection must be worn at all times on all job sites. This also includes operators in site equipment. An approved face shield must be worn in conjunction with safety glasses when grinding, chipping, using handheld or table-mounted cutoff saws, or running a chainsaw. A mesh face shield meeting minimum impact requirements is only permitted to be worn when performing clearing and grubbing operations. Hearing protection. Hearing protection will consist of approved earplugs and earmuffs and must be worn by all employees who are exposed to noise levels exceeding OSHA's recommended exposure levels. Tasks such as running air tools, cutoff saws, operating open cab equipment, and working adjacent to large equipment may require hearing protection. Hand protection. All personnel shall wear appropriate gloves when handling rough, sharp-edged, and abrasive materials, or when the work subjects the hands to lacerations, punctures, burns, or bruises. Chemical-resistant gloves must be worn when handling or working with corrosive substances or substances of unknown toxicity. Foot protection. All employees are required to wear hard-soled, ankle-supporting safety-toed boots at all times. When using whackers, air tampers, or working in an area where there is an injury exposure to the top of the foot, you must also wear metatarsal guards. Traffic vests, jackets, shirts. A minimum Class II fluorescent traffic vest, shirt, or jacket shall be worn when working in the vicinity of highway or heavy equipment traffic. Class III traffic attire should be considered for nighttime work and may be required in some states. Clothing. Proper dress while on the job is mandatory. Do not wear loose hanging clothing. Long pants must be worn at all times. No sweatpants. Shirts with 4-inch sleeves measured from the shoulder seam must be worn at all times. In addition, shirts cut at the midriff or down the neck will not be permitted. Additional PPE. Other types of protection may be required based on specific hazards related to job tasks. Engineering controls, such as ventilation or modification to equipment, should be the first option to eliminate a hazard in the workplace. When engineering controls cannot eliminate the hazard, then PPE must be used. Additional PPE can include respiratory protective equipment, welder's helmets, rubber boots, safety goggles, personal flotation devices, fire retardant clothing, chainsaw chaps. Anyone who is unsure about the proper use, fitting, inspection, or limitations of any PPE item should immediately notify their direct supervisor. Housekeeping. Housekeeping and general cleanliness have a direct effect on safety. Proper housekeeping can prevent slips, trips, and falls and allow for an easy exit in the event of an emergency. It is the responsibility of every employee to keep the work area organized and clean. Keep walkways, stairs, and exits clean of debris and garbage. Passages and walkways must be at least 18 inches wide. Trash shall be placed in the proper receptacle and removed from the job site as needed. Fire extinguishers. Any person discovering a fire should quickly and carefully evacuate anyone who is injured or in imminent danger. It is imperative that no employee risk personal injury. Extinguishing any fire should only be attempted if the fire is in its initial stage and can be safely controlled with the available firefighting equipment. If the fire is too immense to control, contact 911. Fire extinguishers are present in all fuel trucks and tanks, burning carts, company vehicles, tool, office, and brake trailers, and equipment. Extinguishers should be inspected regularly. Expired or empty extinguishers are to be removed from service immediately and replaced. When using a fire extinguisher, remember pass, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Fuel tanks shall be double-walled or diked and protected from unintentional impact. All flammable materials must be kept in approved containers and be properly labeled. Containers must be stored in approved fuel boxes. No flammable or combustible gases are permitted to be stored within tool trailers or Connex boxes. Handheld tools. To prevent injuries, handheld tools must be inspected prior to each use. Look for broken or cracked handles, mushroomed heads, and other signs of wear and tear. Damaged equipment should be removed from service immediately. Be sure to use the right tool for the job and only use a tool for its intended purpose or design. Chemicals on site. Construction activities and other operations performed on job sites sometimes require the use of materials and chemicals that can be hazardous if not handled properly. All chemicals brought onto the job site must be identified, approved, and have a safety data sheet. If you use a container other than the one the chemical came in, it must be labeled and approved, or the chemical must be used immediately. You will be provided a copy of the Hazard Communication Program as part of your employee manual. Always read the label, ask to see the safety data sheet, and use the proper PPE. Check with your supervisor if you have questions. Heavy equipment. When working around heavy equipment, a number of precautions can reduce your risk of an injury. Pay attention to your surroundings, including backup beepers, alarms, horns, and equipment swing radius. Before approaching equipment, make eye contact with the operator and communicate verbally or by hand signals. Only qualified operators are to operate heavy equipment. Seatbelts must be worn in all equipment having rollover protection structures. Do not modify or disable any safety device on any piece of equipment. Utilize a spotter when moving equipment in tight areas or areas near other equipment, overhead lines, and personnel. When necessary, the swing radius should be clearly marked with tape, rope, or a physical barrier. Overhead utilities must be identified with warning signs. Proper clearance must be maintained from all overhead utilities. Cranes and rigging. All crane operators must be certified to operate the specific crane in use on a project. Hand signals are posted on the crane and project bulletin board. All cranes shall have a current annual inspection. Cranes must be inspected prior to and during each use. If any part is found unsafe, it shall be fixed promptly. Any signaling that is performed when the load travel is not in full view of the operator will be done by a qualified signal person. Crane shall be set up level, within 1%, on firm supporting surfaces with the swing radius barricaded from entry. Blocking and cribbing is required under crane floats at all times. All lifts shall be performed in a smooth, controlled manner, and tag lines shall be used on all loads unless their use creates a greater hazard. All employees must keep clear of suspended loads, and operators shall not leave the controls while a load is suspended. Overhead utilities must be identified with warning signs, and proper clearance must be maintained. The rigger and operator must know the weight of the load prior to being lifted. All rigging equipment must be inspected prior to use. Any items found defective will be immediately removed from service. Rigging equipment shall not be modified or repaired, or loaded in excess of the rated capacity. Sharp edges in contact with slings shall be padded with materials of sufficient strength to protect the sling. Load shall be balanced to prevent slippage and rigged so that the center of gravity is beneath the load hook prior to hoisting. Working safety latches shall be installed on all hooks, other than sorting or pelican hooks. Electric power tools and equipment. All power tools, equipment, and extension cords must be inspected prior to use and marked in accordance with the assured grounding program. When inspecting electric tools, check for missing grounds, frayed wiring, damaged cords or casings. Any bad equipment should be immediately red tagged and removed from service. Guards should only be removed prior to servicing and should be replaced prior to use. No work shall be performed on equipment while it is running or connected to a power source. Air compressors shall be equipped with a safety check valve, and all air hose connections must be properly fastened and secured with whip checks, clips, or wire. Only certified workers may operate powder-actuated tools. Lockout and tagout. All potential sources of energy must be controlled or removed prior to working on any equipment. Valves, switches, and breakers must be turned off, tagged, and locked out. Consider all unknown wires, lines, and hoses to be energized. Working on machines not properly shut down, locked, and tagged can cause serious injury or death. Fall protection. Falls are a leading cause of worker fatalities in construction. I+Icon is committed to 100% fall hazard control. Each employee on a walking or working surface with an unprotected side or edge 6 feet or more above a lower level shall be protected from falling by the use of guardrail systems or personal fall arrest systems. A personal fall arrest system consists of a harness, lanyard, and anchorage point. Harnesses and lanyards must be inspected prior to each use. Damaged or defective equipment must be immediately tagged and removed from service. Each employee who is exposed to fall hazards shall receive training on the proper use and maintenance of the fall protection systems. Scaffolding. All erected scaffold should be inspected daily and must be square, level, and plumb. Work level should be fully planked between the front upright and guardrail support. Guardrails must be installed along open sides and ends of platforms higher than 6 feet. The clearance distance from scaffolds and overhead lines must be 10 feet. Do not climb cross-bracing or ends unless designed for that purpose. Do not use ladders or makeshift devices to increase the height. Ladders, stairs, ramps. Properly constructed ladders, stairways, or ramps will be provided when there is a break in elevation of 19 inches or more. Extension ladders must be used at an angle of 4:1 and secured at the top to avoid tipping. Extension and straight ladders must extend 3 feet above the landing surface or have a sufficient grab rail provided to aid in mounting and dismounting. Use step ladders only in a full open position with spreaders locked in place and on a level surface. Maintain 3 points of contact at all times. Ladders must be inspected prior to each use. Any found damaged must be immediately removed from service. Unless specifically designed to do so, only one person at a time shall use a ladder. Job-made ladders, when used, shall be properly constructed. Stairs shall be uniformly constructed with handrails on each unprotected edge of stairways, having 4 or more risers or rising more than 30 inches. Doors may not open directly over stairs without a platform. Stairs must be kept free from debris and slippery surfaces. Ramps shall be installed no steeper than 3:1. Ramps steeper than 8:1 must be constructed with cleats every 14 inches. Aerial lifts. Only authorized and trained persons can operate aerial lifts. The operator shall conduct an inspection of the equipment and work area prior to each shift. Look for drop-offs, holes, bumps, debris, overhead utilities, and other unsafe conditions that could hinder safe operation of the aerial lift. Familiarize yourself with all lifts and use them in accordance with the manufacturer's operation manual, as well as applicable standards. Obey rated capacities and safe equipment use guidelines. 100% fall protection is required at all times when working in aerial lifts. Always maintain proper clearances from all overhead lines. Excavations. All trenches and excavations shall be properly constructed and maintained in accordance with OSHA standards. Excavations shall not exceed 5 feet in vertical depth unless made in entirely stable rock, or an adequate protective system is used to guard against cave-ins. A suitable means of access and egress is required in any excavation 4 feet or greater in depth for every 25 feet of lateral travel. Utility lines must be located and marked prior to digging. A tolerance zone of 24 inches minimum must be observed around all underground utilities. Hand digging or other non-damaging means of excavation must be used within this zone. Sloping and benching must be appropriately based on the condition and classification of soil. Locate spoil piles, materials, and equipment at least 2 feet from the edge of excavations. Excavations must be inspected each shift. Confined space. Confined spaces are spaces not designed for continuous occupancy, having limited means of access, or have a potential for hazardous atmospheres. A confined space may be a manhole, pipe, excavation, or any number of places people are not intended to occupy. Site supervision will be responsible for classifying all confined space prior to entry. Regulations differ by classification, and training will be provided accordingly on site. Working over or adjacent to water. Employees working over or near water where the danger of drowning exists shall wear a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket or buoyant work vest at all times. Employees who are protected by 100% fall protection or other approved fall prevention measures, such as guardrails, are not required to wear personal flotation devices. Ring buoys and a life-saving skiff will be immediately available at locations where employees are working over or adjacent to water. Portable air horns will be located with each ring buoy to alert people on the project of an emergency. Skiff operators will be properly trained on the operation of the skiff and safe retrieval methods. Welding and cutting. Any employee performing torch cutting operations must wear at a minimum a number 5 face shield. Welders must wear at a minimum a number 10 shade lens. All exposed skin should be covered with a flame-resistant material. All fire hazards shall be removed from the work area prior to performing welding and cutting operations. A fire extinguisher must be available in the immediate work area, and the work area must be well ventilated. Gauges, valves, torches, and lines must be in good condition and free from grease and oil. Anti-flashback valves shall be installed at the gauges. Gas and oxygen cylinders must always be in an upright position and adequately secured. All storage cylinders must have caps properly attached. Oxygen cylinders shall be separated from fuel, grease, and oil by at least 20 feet or a 5-foot-high fire-resistant barrier. Welding leads must be in good condition and free of damage within 10 feet of a connection. Demolition operations. A portion of I+Icon's work consists of demolition of bridges and other structures. These operations consist of specific safety controls not utilized on most construction sites. Any employee involved in demolition work will be trained on these specific controls, equipment, and other guidelines. Lead, silica, respiratory hazards. It is important to be aware of respiratory hazards at a construction site. Employees engaged in welding work can encounter a variety of fumes or vapors from chemicals such as zinc, cadmium, iron oxide, and lead. Employees involved with concrete work can be exposed to silica dust when mixing, cutting, or drilling concrete. Workers performing demolition activities can be exposed to other hazards not seen in new construction work. Older structures can contain asbestos, lead-based paint, fungi, mold, and fiberglass insulation. When respiratory hazards are present in the workplace, employees must be protected by engineering controls, administrative controls, or PPE. Traffic control. A majority of work performed is on or near active roadways. Working near any roadway is dangerous, but there are measures that can be taken to make the operation as safe as possible. All traffic patterns must be set up in accordance with contract or state requirements. If required, a certified traffic control supervisor must be on site to supervise these operations. All flagging operations are to be conducted by trained flaggers. All workers must wear, at a minimum, a Class II vest, shirt, or jacket. Personnel performing flagging operations should wear reflective leggings. Employees shall be protected by a crash truck where needed. Company-owned vehicles. It is critical that I+Icon controls the use of company vehicles. Seat belts must be worn at all times by all occupants, and passengers should not be transported in the beds of pickups. A disposable camera, accident report, current insurance and registration cards, fire extinguisher, and first aid kit must be in the vehicle. No employee may operate a company-owned vehicle until they have been approved to do so by the Safety Department. More information will be provided to you if your supervisor elects to submit you for approval. Conclusion: all accidents and near-miss accidents must be reported immediately to your supervisor. All employees are authorized to stop work to address unanticipated or questionable safety issues. Do not assume anything on the job. If work conditions change unexpectedly, stop work. If you have questions about the job safety requirements or your work, ask your supervisor. The I+Icon USA family of companies is committed to providing its personnel and our subcontractors with a safe and healthful workplace. In turn, every employee has the responsibility to perform work in a safe manner. We will not tolerate violations of our safety rules. We expect you to use common sense, exercise good judgment, and work safely so that you do not injure yourself or someone else. Ultimately, your safety depends upon you and your commitment to this program. Any recommendations you may have to improve our safety program are strongly encouraged. And remember, working safely is our #1 core value. The mission on every I+Icon project is to be safe and accident-free.